Age needle should be hitting about pretty close to 0 or up near there, but don't crank it up too high. I got some air conditioning and HVAC going, but we don't want to hear too much hum. Does it sound pretty clean? Or does it sound like a lot of presence? The jacket, I'm sorry to put you under the heat with that. The white dries camera's nuts after a while.
It sounds all right, I think.
Hide that in an appropriate place.
Put it,
Well, stick it in your pocket or do some, or stick it in the.
put it in the box, perhaps.
About future kind of where we're going. I think that the overall theme of this video is that in the first century we had a tremendous struggle that has required determination and sacrifice and selflessness of an astronomical scale on the part of a lot of individuals just to make the college survive. Well, we've gotten over that hump, but to really achieve the dreams, the greatness that we're all now know is possible, it's still going to require that same kind of sacrifice and determining that just because we've reached a new plateau doesn't mean that means that there's much more at stake. Those kinds of things that were kind of striking. Are you going? Okay. I think the first question is, if you can crystallize in a few sentences, what do you think is the general direction for the future? Where are we as a college headed in the second century as we stand on that threshold?
Well, the future of the college is going to be very much based in the past. The real essential issue is going to be the question of values. Even though there's going to be immense changes in technology, the thing that's really going to be important is the question of values. And just as a very simple example, we now know, and from a biological point of view, that we probably within the next 10 to 25 years are going to be able to clone human beings. Now, the fact that we know how to do it, the question is, should we do it? And if we should, which ones and how many? The same thing, we could take a look at DNA, same kind of questions. But it's going to be those value questions, which are really going to be the essential questions we're going to have to be asking.
And that is, I mean, when you say that based very much on the past, that's, I mean, Hayes talks about in the history of the college, in the founding, that this idea that we need to have an education that not only just simply trains people to have nice careers and all that, but trains them or gives them some framework in which they can solve the problems of the world, and that the Midwest particularly needed that type of resource in the community because there's awesome things ahead that need to be dealt with.
Yeah. Well, certainly in nearly every field you're going to see major advances. Certainly in communication. No longer are we talking about just walking across the street talking to our neighbor, or are we simply picking up the weekly newspaper. But now what we're talking about is instantaneous kinds of things. We saw that certainly in the Gulf War. We were sitting there watching as the war started. We sat there and watched as the Scud missiles came into Tel Aviv, something which is going to continue. And so again, you have all of that technology. The question is, how are we going to use it? And why should we use it? And I think we're starting to, certainly in communication, to ask the question is, what is the role? Should we allow that to happen? Can we as a people conduct military affairs in an openness of that kind of, and we really don't know. And I think those kinds of questions are going to continue to be asked.
And I think what you're suggesting then is that where the kind of greatness and excellence that we're searching for or moving towards right now is going to be is providing a framework for the next generation of people to go out and deal with those questions.
Yes, there's no question in my mind that the greatness of University College will be measured in what are the questions that students are asking. Are they in a position to ask the right questions, to really be centered in on human beings and the needs of human beings? And perhaps 100 years ago when the college was founded, the thing that really was asked was, what kinds of information do we need to go seek? And in most cases, there wasn't a lot of information. But now, as we continue to build the information base, the question is, where are we going with it? How are we going to use it? Certainly ethical questions, moral questions. The old question is, can we do it? Now the answer is very often, yes, we can do it. The question now becomes then is, should we do it?
You've been here for 16 years?
About 18 years.
18 years. Do you feel part of a continuity, a part of a tradition, and part of a tradition that hasn't been radically altered, but has now been given some impetus to move forward in a bigger way?
Oh, I think the challenge that which we now feel, the challenges we felt when I came, were by and large challenges of survival. And I remember back to a speech given in the late 1970s at a dinner in Logie, in which Bill Cumberland was talking. And Bill Cumberland's thesis that night was that no longer as an institution is survival enough, but that we needed to be in a position to understand that as a college, simply to exist, simply to survive, was not really a worthy goal, but that we had to have something greater, that we had to be looking at something greater. And I think Bill laid out really in a very delightful manner that mission, that we had to be something beyond survival. If we're simply going to survive for the sake of survival, then perhaps we ought to go out of business. I think now what we have is opportunities to truly become a place where people can learn effectively, and go out and make impact on the world. And that's the mission, of course, which all institutions have had. But now I think we've changed from that concept of we're going to survive to a concept which says is we're going to be one of the leaders. We're going to be out there with the pack, leading the pack.
There are those that, and they're few, but I think you hear this attitude occasionally that we've kind of gotten over the hump. We had our sugar daddy, so to speak, and now it's the land of milk and honey, and we're riding on the, we're riding on the crest of all this wealth. But that's not entirely true, really. I mean, we still have some tough decisions and some hard sacrifices ahead, don't we?
The more you have in terms of monetary supplies requires more of you. And I think that's an attitude which people have to come to. People who get to the point of saying is, we've got it made, and relax, simply don't understand the mission of great institutions of higher education. The biggest requests for money are still being made by the finest institutions with the largest endowments, because there's more that can be done in terms of serving mankind. And that's ultimately what we're doing. We're ultimately serving humankind when we educate students to their very greatest potential. And the only way that that can be done is to take those resources, use them effectively. And as an institution, we simply cannot accept anything that is not of the greatest effort and the greatest ability of the people who are here. And so the challenges are even greater today than they were 10 years ago. Now that's not to discount what Harold Siebens did for us, because it was a magnificent gift, which has had a profound impact on this institution. But what Harold Siebens founded was a dream. It was a dream to really become among the finest institutions in America. And that demands a tremendous commitment and a tremendous drive from everybody who's here, from the custodian to the Board of Trustees, and certainly everybody in between.
What would you say to students, that class of students that's going to be our Centennial class, the first class of the new century, and the ones that will be starting next year? What message or what words do you say to them about this college and what it means and what they're becoming a part of?
I guess I would say to the students, You are becoming graduates of a school which was built on the hard work and the blood and the efforts of a lot of people. A lot of heart and soul went into this place. Certainly faculty members like Bill Cumberland, people like Bill Wesselink, Charlie Zaleski, people who are just sort of names in passing now, and where you don't see them, their buildings aren't named for them, but who in their own very personal way made this a place that everybody could be proud of. They really believed in it. And I guess I would say to the students this is a good place. It's a better place today than it was 10 years ago or 18 years ago when I came. And hopefully in another 10 years or another 20 or another century, it's going to be a better place. But it's going to be a better place because people cared about it. Cared enough to stay with it, cared enough to make it a great place. And they're a part of that family now. And they also have a responsibility, because once they leave here, they're going to have to deal with the world out there and make a difference. They're also going to have to return from time to time and demand of that institution which they graduated from the same kind of excellence that's being asked today, and even greater excellence.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now to kind of follow up, and in some ways kind of coming back at some of the things you've already said, so that you maybe say them again, but in a slightly different way, gives me some choice. But one question I have is that we talk around here about excellence and greatness. Is that really something that Buena Vista College, little school, small town, Northwest Iowa, is that something that we really can hope to attain, or is it simply our own rhetoric we have to inflate ourselves?
What is excellence? Well, it's an interesting comment. Harold Sieben said in a conversation, excellence is that the person who's doing it is doing a great job. And I think that tells a lot about Harold Siebens, but I think it also tells us a great deal about who we are as an institution. We're Midwest, we're small, but this person who leaves here and goes out and does a superior job of teaching elementary kids, that's terribly important to this world. The person who ends up leaving Buena Vista College and goes into business or goes into communication, the only thing that's going to limit them is their own personal desire and drive. And if we as an institution can formulate and help those people formulate that drive and those values, which are really important, we have succeeded. And above all, what it means is that the student has to be free to dream. They have to be able to say, hey, I can do that. I know that I can do that. And when you do that, I think you're going to find that, yeah, we can reach greatness. But greatness comes from people believing in themselves, believing what's there. I go back and look at Buena Vista College. I can still go back to 1975 to 78 as we were starting to work with Harold Siebens on this grant. And every so often something would sort of leak out that Harold Siebens was going to do something significant. And even up until the day before it was announced publicly, and some people knew that, people would say, oh, that's just a pipe dream. Nobody's going to do that. But the people believed. And because they believed, it came to pass. And that's still true. It's true with every student, true with every faculty member, true with every administrator, true with every employee of this college. If you're free to dream, you know how to dream, and you're willing to do the work to do that, to get that dream, that's where you get greatness.
I want to come back and maybe try to put the kind of vision for how we achieve, or what we are, or in what way we achieve excellence. And I think you suggested earlier that has to do with values.
Excellence is demanding the most of yourself more than anything else. It's demanding more of yourself, demanding that you do the things that are right, knowing what's right, doing them, but also being willing to be enough of a human being to reach over to your fellow students, your fellow faculty members, and demand of them excellence. To require that they have to meet a high level of success. And I think when you get there, the whole thing comes up. It's sort of the old idea that the tide rises all the ships.
Okay. Anything else you want to add about where we are, where we're going, standing on the threshold of the second 100 years?
The change that has come about in 100 years, as much change has come about in the last 100 years, will be again changed in the next 10. And so we can talk about all of the technology that goes into that and what's going to change. Just a simple example, which we now know that we can take fiber optics and put 3,000 channels of television into every dorm room. No matter how quick you are at flipping the channel selector, you can't possibly look at them all. The question is, which one are we going to look at? And those kinds of things we'll never know. Jerry Mathiasen, one of our graduates, said here a couple of weeks ago that 50% of all the technology we're going to use in the year 2001 hasn't even been invented. And so certainly great change is coming, and it's coming faster and faster. And it's going to be a great ride for those people who are here over this next few years and over the next century. We need to celebrate the past, but what we really need to do is to make a commitment to the future, because that's where it's going to be made.
That's good. That's nice. One last thing. Can you say happy 100th birthday, Buena Vista College? Happy Centennial birthday, Buena Vista College.
You say happy 100th birthday, Buena Vista College.
Okay, good. We're going to go around and get a
Yeah,
bunch
good.
of
All right.
Great. Let's roll over the bars. Thank you. That was good. You'll see it Tuesday.